Hello, I'm Roger Sherman. I'm a documentary filmmaker, a founder of Florentine Films, and I'm on the advisory board of Hamptons Doc Fest. Thank you so much for watching this incredible film. Jackie, I hope you handed Kleenex out before the screening. I cried throughout, but I really lost it in Haviv's dancing funeral scene.
Mm.
Um, I want to welcome the filmmaking brothers, Brandon Kramer and Lance Kramer. Brandon is the director, Lance is the producer. Gentlemen, welcome. Um, Tell us
Thank you for
how
having us.
you're related to Liat and how the film came about.
Liat is a distant relative of Lance and mine. When Lance and I first went to Israel over 20 years ago, her family was our introduction to Israel. We actually lived on Yehuda and Chaya's kibbutz. We stayed with Tal in Tel Aviv. We're very close to this family, and we were at a bat mitzvah with Liat and Aviv 2 months before October 7th. And so when we found out that they had gone missing on October 7th, we immediately reached out to Liat's parents to check in on them as relatives, not at all thinking we would make a film. And in that conversation, they expressed to us that they were getting no response from the Israeli government, and that because Liat is an American citizen, the State Department was deeply involved very quickly, and that they would be flying to where Lance and I live, which is Washington, D.C., and work as documentary filmmakers. And on that phone call, we discussed the importance of documenting some of what they were going through in those early days, thinking that it might just be something short that we put out there to raise awareness around Liat and Aviv's plight. And as we started to film, we were witnessing something so profound and nuanced between these three generations of this one part of our family that we felt this responsibility to continue documenting, not knowing where this story would go.
Did Viv's family not want to be part of it, not want to be filmed, or was that a conscious editorial choice?
Oh no, Aviv's family has been very supportive from the beginning. Aviv's mom loves the movie. Um, and it wasn't so much a conscious editorial choice, more so a choice out of our relationship to the family being through the Bainan side of the family. So, it was Liat's family that we had this relationship with, and so that's where we decided to focus the frame of the film on.
And they
That's
understood.
Oh yeah, very totally understood, very supportive. And, this is a film, Lance and I are American filmmakers. We're not from Israel. And it's a film sort of uniquely looking at this crisis through the frame, through our lens as American filmmakers telling a story about our American Israeli family.
It's an incredibly emotional and intimate story. Can you talk about your crew? I mean, you're in very, very tight. How did you not impose yourselves on them?
Sure. I mean, look, this is an incredible, as you see in the movie, this took enormous amount of faith and courage on the family's behalf. I mean, they let us in at the absolute darkest days of their lives. We're sleeping on the floor outside of their hotel room to document the 2 a.m. phone calls that they're getting from the IDF. We're documenting not just the stresses and tensions that they're experiencing externally with government and various political entities, but also within each other. Disagreements within a family to document that takes a lot of courage. And the way we got there was, I mean, not only did we have this prior relationship with them for over 20 years, but we just spent a lot of time with each of them without filming, making it clear that we really were trying to understand each family member's unique way of processing their trauma and their grief in this moment. And we weren't looking down the lens of our camera at any of them. And that kind of relationship building off camera allowed them to trust us to bear witness and document, the moments of love and connection, but also the moments where things got really tense.
Can you talk about logistics? You live in the States. It looked like you moved over there for filming. How did that work?
Lance, you want to take this one? It's more of a producing challenge.
Sure. I mean, as Brandon mentioned, we're American filmmakers. We live in DC. And so part of the kind of profound realization in seeing how this story unfolded was here you had people who were kidnapped thousands of miles from us. And actually, then the story, at least a big part of it, was actually happening literally in our backyard. And I think had the family not been coming to DC, like there would have never been a film, I'm sure of that, because I think it required us having this kind of surprising connection in a sense, not just to the family, but also to DC and the role that DC played in this story, and our just understanding of how to navigate DC. So, like, we leaned very heavily on talent that we've worked with before, and also just people who really trust in the US to be able to be present for those scenes, moments in DC, particularly Yoni Brook, who's an extraordinary both cinematographer and also producer. He played both roles in the film. And really, he was the very first person that we called to work with. And he was there with us from the very, very beginning and shot most of the film, both in the US and then also in Israel, where when, as Brandon also mentioned, the kind of sleeping on the floor outside their home, that happened in Israel too. And at a certain point, very early, Brandon and Yoni both went to Israel, were living in the home of Yehud and Chaya on Shomrat, their kibbutz in the north, but then also came to the hotel in Eilat and were living there in another room or on the floor outside of Yehud and Chaya's room to be present for all these intimate moments. But of course, also Brandon and Yoni are outsiders. So we also wound up collaborating very closely with Israeli filmmaker, very talented Israeli filmmaker named Hila Medalia. And she really helped us, Brandon and Yoni and myself, to navigate just like all the complexities, but also the intensity of filming in Israel at that time. And then she also brought several other people of her kind of crew and community into the mix to help support Brandon and Yoni when they were there. And we built this kind of team that then had a hub in DC, in Tel Aviv. We also had a unit in Portland who was able to film for part of the time when we weren't able to also be there in Portland, though Brandon and Yoni did take trips out there as well. And so we just had this like amazing kind of group of filmmakers led by Brandon and Yoni, but with collaborators all over that were all very much in sync, though, about our shared approach.
Hiring
And
filmmakers to collaborate in other places doesn't always work. And it's
yeah,
great
it really
that you
did in
had
this case. Yeah,
past
yeah,
experience with people that you could bring in. And this is a cinema verite film. And for people that don't know what that is, the traditional idea of cinema verite is you just let the action happen. You do nothing to get in the way or push a little bit. My feeling is that cinema verite has evolved a little bit, and the idea of saying, well, what if we go here, or could I ask you this question, I think can still be cinema verite. Were you asking a few questions? Did you say, let's go to the kibbutz and film, or was everything just pulled back and um, waiting for it to happen?
Um, a lot of it was very, very observational because the story was unfolding with there was so much happening at once that there wasn't even time to set up anything. I mean, sure, we're having conversations with them in the car rides and things like that, but there wasn't the space or time to do formal sit down interviews or anything like that. What did happen was during some of the more sensitive moments that were not just, some of the things like Yehuda and Chaya having a fight in their hotel room, that's just happening, and you just, and in that moment, there was a real strength to my collaboration with Yoni because I actually would have some impulses in some moments like that. This is too sensitive to film. And Yoni would sort of push back and be like, we're okay. Let's film. We don't need to leave right now. And his distance was actually really helpful because some of the moments that I didn't necessarily feel like we should be there for. Yoni sort of pushed to be there, and then we dealt with the ethics of those scenes that we had documented in the edit in a really gentle way. But the other way that we dealt with, cinema verite in a more complicated way was just giving the family a lot of agency over certain sensitive conversations that did have a little bit of more preparation behind them. So, for example, with Liat in particular, this was critical because she just spent 54 days having no agency. So the last thing I wanted to do as a filmmaker was also strip her of that agency. So I talked to her a few days after she was released, and she had just had the funeral for Aviv. And she said that she was planning to have a conversation with her parents and her sister to sort of process what had gone through. They hadn't like sat down. And I asked her when and where she wanted to do that. And we had a conversation around that scene where the four of them are seated, where yes, I didn't create the context for it. It was something that they wanted to do, but we talked about how to film that in a sensitive way. And actually, as we started to film, Liat first turned to me and asked me if we would leave because she said it's too hard to have this conversation filmed. And then we immediately left, and then they started to talk, and it became this beautiful healing moment. And then she got up and came over and said, "Actually, I'd like for you guys to film this." And so
Fabulous. Were
the
you on
ethics.
FaceTime watching lots of the filming, so you were sort of present from Washington, D.C.?
Oh no, I'm there. I was there.
Oh, you were there.
Yeah,
Okay.
yeah.
I thought you had not gone. Okay,
No, no, no.
great.
I was there for 95% of the shoots that are in this movie.
Fantastic.
Yeah, so I was flying between Portland and Israel and DC. I was going everywhere but the only things I wasn't there for were a few of the scenes toward the end of the film, where Hila Medalia really built this close relationship with Liat, and over the course of 6 months, continued filming with her at times where I couldn't fly back every time there was
Sure,
one, thing
sure.
to film.
Um, Brothers as partners, a producer, a director, that can have some issues. Do Brandon, are you always the director? Lance, are you always the producer? Is it different personalities? How do you work together like
Since I'm the younger brother, I'll let the older brother answer.
that?
We've made 3 films together, and we've also just been working together with the production company for 15 years. Um, Unofficially, we've been making things together for much longer than that, probably the better part of 35 years. So we have a lot of experience together. Um, as adults, I've always been the producer. So I've always produced, Brandon's always directed. I think prior to that, when we were kids, I don't think I knew what a producer was. But I think kind of when I reflect back, I guess I was kind of producing. And I think Brandon was kind of directing, even when we were playing with our parents' video camera at a young age. So, our like collaboration is like the most magical, special thing that I could ever ask for. And I think it's led to these amazing films that I'm very proud of, that I would never have been able to make, certainly on my own. So I think it's a testament to our collaboration. I also look like we're siblings, we're family. We're not that different, also maybe than the Bain and Atzili family in that sense that we love each other and we also argue like crazy too. I always see it as a sign of our love for each other, but it brings us closer. But yeah, I mean, we I think we actually, I feel like the strength, a lot of the strength of our collaboration is the way we kind of can navigate conflict together. And I think it's allowed us to do that together just as creative collaborators and business partners. But then also it's helped us to understand or tell stories about conflict as well in these intimate ways because we've almost kind of walked that walk ourselves. But I don't know,
Well,
Brandon, if there's anything you would add to
you've
that.
made a really wonderful and important film, and I think to get inside an event like this as you did is completely eye-opening, and we hear so much about it, but this is as close as we can come to experiencing it. And I think you did an incredible job. Congratulations. I mean, you've won at Berlin. You sold out your first screening at Doc NYC, which is coming right up, and they have a second screening for you. Um, and I understand your theatrical will start soon. And so we thank you so much for coming and letting us at Hamptons Doc Fest show your film, and we wish you all the best.
Oh,
Thank you
thank you
so
so much.
much. And this is a this film is an independent film. It's a labor of love. It was made by a team of independent artists. It's being released into the world independently. So if anybody uh, who saw the film, who's in the audience today, if you all enjoyed the film, if it meant something to you, please tell your friends. The film's going to be playing in theaters in January, and it's this is a full word of mouth effort. So please tell people to watch the film, and feel free to follow the film on social media as well. It's at Holding Liat. That's where we'll be sharing where the film will be playing all across the country.
Thank you, Brandon and Lance. Thank you so much. Take care.
Thank
Thank you,
you.
Roger. Appreciation to the festival.